Electricity has become a fundamental aspect in the human life. In fact, it is almost impossible for new generation to think about a future without it. Years ago, Tesla and Edison had the war of the currents, trying to prove that alternating or direct current is better, respectively. But both are good depending on the needs. That is, for long distance, alternating current is more efficient. But direct current is useful for storing charge. Many of the chargers or smartphones, laptops use this principle of current conversion because an alternating voltage of 127 volts is too much besides being very insecure. That is why it is converted to 5 volts of direct current. In fact, we could use this converter resource to charge cell phones without the need for the power adapter. In addition, the space it uses is very small because the use of the transformer is avoided. As a curious fact, the PlayStation 3 console was huge by the use of this transformer. This project opened the doors to us of the immense amount of devices or components that can be used to create something functional. It seems amazing to us that a component as small as a Zener diode can help to regulate the electrical tension. In addition to that, a simple resistance can withstand a power of 1 watt by itself with a very interesting heat dissipation. Not forgetting the importance of electrolytic and polyester capacitors for this project.
The elements of the circuit were the following: one independent source of 127 volts, two resistors of 100 ohms, one resistor of 33 ohms, one resistor of 100 kilo ohms, one capacitor of 3.3 microfarads, one capacitor of 1000 microfarads, and 3 diodes of 5 volts. First of all, a simulation was started in the multisim software, which had an input of approximately 127 volts in order to obtain an output voltage of 5 volts and a current of 50 milliamps. The circuit was built on a protoboard and the operation was verified with the help of a multimeter. Unfortunately, one of the capacitors didn't support the stored power, which caused a small explosion of the capacitor. After verifying the correct behavior of the circuit, the PCB structure used with the help of the Proteus 8 software was started to print in the appropriate laboratory. With the printed PCB, the circuit elements were welded to the PCB and it was found that the results were the same as those obtained in the protoboard. Finally, in the electromagnetic laboratory, the resistances in which the results are measured were the soldered in order to vary their resistance and observe the change that occurred in the circuit. An oscilloscope was also connected to see the waveform of the output voltage in each case, of the values of the resistances and the temperatures of each of the circuit elements were measured.
Conductor as a series of accelerated movements, each of which ends with a collision with some of the fixed particles of the conductor. The electrons gain kinetic energy during the free trajectories between collisions, and they yield to the fixed particles in each collision the same amount of energy that they had gained. The energy acquired by the fixed particles increases the amplitude of the vibration that is become heat. The temperature is lower when having an input capacitor in the circuit, but the arrangement in parallel, the temperature is distributed between the resistance and the capacitor. The change in temperature depends on the power that the component, whether capacitor, resistor, or diode, stores, since, as mentioned before, the electrons collide with other fixed particles of the conductor. Thus, the heat is present in some of the circuit components. This effect is called the Joule effect. It's possible to obtain half of a current as well as twice the current that is already obtained from the circuit in the resistor, since with Ohm's law, you can obtain the current you want to obtain. That is, the smaller the resistor or the greater the voltage in the component, the current will be higher. During the elaboration of the project, different obstacles were obtained. For example, during the simulation, a Zener diode was to be found which gave the capacity to control a low voltage around the 5 volts that were requested. Also, at the time of the welding the components on the PCB board, there were no commercial resistors which had to be used for the elaboration of the circuit.